WCW Starrcade 1992 Battle Bowl from December the 28th ran 2 hours 45 minutes from the Omni in Atlanta. This is the 10th annual Starrcade event. Tonight, the tradition continues. We get matches hyped like Vader versus Sting for the King of Cable, whatever that is. Weird, since this is on pay-per-view and not on cable. As the title gives away, they're doing the second Lethal Lottery Battle Bowl, only this time it is much smaller. Also, unlike last year, this Battle Bowl will take place in one ring, not two, so less people, less rings. I guess that has some logic. Ron Simmons will defend the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, just not against the WCW United States Champion, Ravishing Rick Rude. That commentary may have meant something to me if I was watching back in 1992, but we are so far removed from the day that this happened, I had no idea Rude was going to be challenging Simmons. Dr. Death Steve Williams will be challenging for the All-Americans World title. They say that Rude has a hernia and the medical staff can't clear him. Tony Schiavone is in the ring with Cowboy Bill Watts and Hammer and Hank Aaron to gift last year's Battle Bowl champion Sting with the Battle Bowl championship ring. Bill says that this is like a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, so that's why we have such a famous football player, baseball player, in the ring to give the championship ring to Sting. Too bad they couldn't get Deion Sanders here. That would have made some sort of sense, unlike Hank Aaron. I get that the Home Run King is cool, but this isn't the World Series of Wrestling. This is supposed to be the Super Bowl of wrestling. Although maybe the name Battle Bowl is the actual issue. Legit, you must have a series of matches to win this, so play up the World Series rather than the Super Bowl. That could have worked, but no big deal. The Stinger wants to be a back-to-back winner, but I doubt that will happen. Winning 2 years straight is tough. After the ceremony, Larry Zbyszko explains 35 names got put into the tumbler, and 11 names will be drawn at random, wink wink, to create the teams. Missy Hyatt clarifies that the first 4 teams got announced at the most recent Clash of Champions. In ring, Gary Michael Capetta announces team number 1 of Heavy Metal Van Hammer and his partner Dangerous Dan Spivey. Interesting team. They're facing Cactus Jack and Johnny B. Bad. The only one guy in this who never got a run in the Federation is Hammer, and he totally looks like the kind of person that Vince would have seen as a project. I know young Oz was a fan of his presentation at 6 or 7 or whatever. Oz thought Van Hammer was cool. But, much older Oz knows Van Hammer is the weakest link in this contest. Early on, Foley makes Hammer look impressive. Let's see how Mark Mero does after the tag. My goodness, what a Frankensteiner. Hammer's head got drilled straight into the mat. Spivey and Foley, in a world where Dan was healthy, would have been money with the Waylon Mercy character and the Mankind gimmick in Titan Towers. It really would have rocked if had that happen. Mark Mero and Mick Foley are tagging so much they feel like a real team. Van and Dan do not seem to be on the same page. Dangerous Danny is a bad guy and Van Hammer is squeaky clean, goody good. Spivey cheats to help the team and Hammer is in his feelings about it. Johnny is so not bad. Not at all. He can make Hammer and Spivey look like unstoppable big monsters. The crowd is surprisingly hot for heel Spivey versus heel Jack and face Hammer versus face Johnny. So much fun, all action. Jesse the Body and Jim Ross are the commentary duo. Dang, Bad KO's Cactus and cost his team the match. It was a weird finish, but a totally fine 3 out of 5 stars match that went 6 minutes and 51 seconds. Time to draw the next participants from the tumbler. The Natural Dustin Rhodes is teaming with Big Van Vader, who is accompanied by Harley Race, and they are taking on Kensuke Sasaki and The Barbarian. Very weird match. I hope this is fun. Rhodes and Vader on the same team is nuts, especially with a Rhodes having Harley Race on the outside coaching the team. That's a recipe for disaster. Dustin and Vader took each other on in the King of Cable tournament. Vader obviously won that since he's going on to face Sting. Barbarian is in tremendous shape. He and Vader have a nice code of honor handshake before seeing who is stronger, but both men are immovable no matter what each does to the other. Barbarian eventually hits Vader with a very impressive body slam. The crowd is not sure what to do since both these guys are bad guys. Jesse says, Vader slams Barb. If you can slam me, I can slam you. In the corner, Vader with those classic forearm shots. These two big guys are making me think of Vin Diesel and The Rock. No one ever comes out on top. Finally, Rhodes tags in and he and Vader do the Hart Foundation's Heart Attack. Didn't see that coming. When Barbarian tags in Kensuke, Jim says he is a young Japanese powerhouse, and I just can't help but think of when he called himself Power Warrior, and he was in Japan's version of the Legion of Doom, or what I like to think of as Power Warrior being the Draws in Japan, being the third man for the Road Warriors. Kensuke and Rhodes are going move for move, just like Vader and Barbarian did. When Vader is legal, Ross says this has been like a demolition derby. Sasaki no-selling a big boot from Vader and then hitting a suplex was surprising. Both Vader and Kensuke tag out. Dustin with a huge lariat. The crowd pops when Rhodes rolls up Barbarian. It was a passable 2 out of 5 stars. Went 6 minutes 56 seconds. Post-match, Vader attacks his rival before the rival from before the match and now after the match. Jesse the Body gives Harley Race the credit for Vader thinking of this attack. The Natural is now weakened for the Battle Bowl match in the main event. Once again, Lethal Lottery Battle Bowl tag team match. This time, Barry Windham is teaming with the Great Muta, taking on Too Cold Scorpio and Brian Pillman. The last match has made me unsure of what to expect here. I thought that Sasuke, Barbarian, Vader, and Rhodes potentially would be interesting, but in execution, it was mostly uneventful. Or, like I said, it was a passable match, but I'm a fan of all of the players in this particular match, so hopefully they will work well together. Tons of talent. The craziest part about this match is that Brian and Barry will be challenging Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas for the unified NWA and WCW World Tag Team Championships later on in this same show. Also, the Great Muta is scheduled to face Masahiro Chono for the NWA Big Gold Belt. The only man in this who isn't guaranteed to have an additional match tonight is Too Cold Scorpio, but, if he wins, he will have another match by participating in the Battle Bowl main event. What a time to be a fan. Scorpio and Windham start things out, and in about a year, these two will be going at it for the Big Gold Belt at a Clash of the Champions. When the Great Muta is legal, it is clear he and Too Cold pair very well together. When Pillman is tagged in, he hits a beautiful dropkick, and not long later, Muta hits one of his own. Then Barry tags in, and Barry and Brian throw chops at one another. This is not very smart, guys. Thankfully, the once and future horsemen of Windham and Pillman stop striking each other, and Barry tags out. That's good, since Brian and Barry need to not weaken one another in preparation for their upcoming tag team match against Ricky and Shane. Pillman laying the boots to Muta in the corner is very much evoking of another of his future partners, that being Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he stomps a mud hole in his opponents. When Flying Brian tags in Too Cold Scorpio, I think how much of a missed opportunity it was that WCW never had Scorpio and Pillman teaming regularly. But that is actually one of the upsides of the Lethal Lottery, like how last year seeing the World's Strongest Man Bill Kazmaier team with Jushin Thunder Liger made me want them to be a regular full-time team. Muta tagging in Wyndham, and we get a teaser of that Clash match I mentioned earlier when Wyndham fights Scorpio. Muta in again, and he has such a presence about him. This is feeling like the best match of the show so far. All four men are in, and Barry hits his finish, and Muta hits his moonsault. It is over. Such a good 4 out of 5 stars match that only went a second under 7 minutes, although it felt like they fit 14 minutes worth of action in that 7 minutes. Pillman isn't happy he lost, but Barry helps him focus on what is to come. I'm not sure having all the Lethal Lottery matches back to back was a good idea. I prefer variety in match types and different styles help with, show pacing. But we are at the last Lethal Lottery random drawing, so it is what it is. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Sting are taking on Eric Watts and the previously mentioned Jushin Thunder Liger. 3 out of the 4 of these guys are all-time classic wrestlers. And then you have the Booker's son, who, while not bad, I feel wasn't yet ready for the position. I'm not sure how old he was, but I feel like Watts is passable as a teenager here, maybe 19 or 20. Williams, on the other hand, looks like a walking wall. Sting and Liger both are among the best of this era. The crowd comes alive when the match begins with Sting and Liger. Liger is so fast and crisp at everything. When Sting tags in Williams, Dr. Death and Jushin are the perfect contrast of speed and power. The one big takeaway I have about Eric Watts is he is tall. And, he runs the ropes funny. Steve clotheslines Liger into next week. When Sting is back in the ring, he is so creative. This match has had so many tags. Sting and Steve work so well together. And Thunder Liger is just magic when it comes to making you believe he is taking damage. The Stinger and Big Doc winning feels like a certainty since both have matches later on tonight. Williams versus Ron Simmons and Sting versus Vader. Williams wins in this good 4 out of 5 stars match that went 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Watts was clearly the least experienced of the three, and the other guys, they made up for his shortcomings. With this match in the books, that means that the 8 men in the main event are set to be Sting, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Barry Windham, the Great Muta, Big Van Vader, the Natural Dustin Rhodes, Heavy Metal Van Hammer, and Dangerous Dan Spivey. When did the catchphrase "where the big boys play" begin? Because it feels like it's very appropriate for this match to be the beginning of WCW being where the big boys play. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brute. Time for one of the prettiest championships of all time, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, when Masahiro Chono defends against the Great Muta. Hard to wrap my head around so many people pulling double duty and triple duty tonight in this WCW, or should I say, your local independent promotion with limited talent available. My goodness, the big gold belt looks so prestigious. Jim Ross calls this the most recognized championship in the world. Is that true? Since this is Muta's second match of the show and only Chono's first, it feels logical that the champion will retain. And it also makes sense as to why these two start out so methodical. Just when I think that these two will be cautious and tactical the whole time, we get such a clean Northern Lights suplex. Chono keeps trying to get Muta to give up with multiple submissions. The Great Muta hits a flurry of kicks before going to match Chono's submission for submission. This has not had nearly as much action as I would have expected. In Muta's defense, he had a very good tag team match and has that main event battle royal, so saving his energy makes sense. Jesse the Body says it is frustrating for an aerial wrestler like Muta to get grounded, and that is the precise moment we get an explosive superplex. However, the action is slowed down again, and we get more mat-based Chono dominance. Muta gets a Boston Crab followed by an Indian Deathlock. Good old JR and the Body joke about whether these moves are called the same thing in Japan. Every time commentary mentions this is the NWA Championship match, I get taken aback because this is a WCW show, and obviously that looks like the WCW Championship, or what the WCW Championship is often known to look like. This is what people complain about now with AEW having ROH championships on the AEW show, but I find it less jarring because ROH titles have never been looked at as AEW's top prize, like how the Big Gold Belt has been recognized as both NWA and WCW, and obviously later on WWE's top prize. Just as I suspected, and with an STF, Masahiro Chono retains the NWA Championship in a fine 3 out of 5 stars match that went 12 minutes 49 seconds. Jesse says Muta held out longer before giving up than anyone else has in the past. Out next is United States Champion Ravishing Rick Rude. He is here to cut a promo about him being robbed of his opportunity to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship on top of the United States Championship he already has. Rude is one of the best talkers of this era, and realistically, he is an awesome wrestler and has a great look. Rude could easily have been given the nickname The Total Package rather than Lex Luger. I feel like the name fits Rude better than it ever did Lex. I like Lex, but he was never the actual Total Package. He had the look, and his in-ring skills were okay, but his promo ability just was lacking. One thing Lex did great for the business was getting the All-American Ron Simmons into the wrestling business, and on that subject, Ron is defending against Dr. Death Steve Williams in a rivalry that started on the gridiron and has crossed over into the squared circle. Unless my memory is wrong, Steve Williams never held the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. If I am remembering right, he was only Universal Wrestling Federation's top guy, right? Regarding these two guys' football days, Williams and Simmons both competed in the 1979 and 1980 Orange Bowl, whatever that is specifically since I don't watch football. The match starts with sportsmanship. I enjoy how both these guys feel like they belong in the world title picture. Simmons is in control. Ventura calls this playing football without helmets or pads, but when Ron leapfrogs over Williams while he is going for a shoulder tackle, I feel like this is way better than any football game. Early on, Dr. Death must go to the outside to catch his breath, and it makes sense since this is his second match, and it's also his second of 3 matches tonight. This is the only match for Ron, and he needs to worry about. When Ron dives off the top rope with a shoulder tackle, I wonder if this is the most fun match so far. This being big meaty men, it's very funny, and I'm sure it would please Big E. And it reminds me of that time that the AEW crowd chanted meat at every move in a match. I feel like this duo of Jim Ross and Jesse Ventura talk about football way too much. And on the subject of football and football players turned wrestlers, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, feels like a serious version of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, since he keeps wanting to do that 3-point stance football maneuver. Big Doc and Ron slug it out on the outside of the ring. Nick Patrick counts to 10, which means Ron retains the title, and the crowd is not happy with this finish. I was also not happy about it. And Steve Williams beats up Ron Simmons, which then gets the referee, Nick Patrick, to inevitably reverse the decision, which is not all that much better because Dr. Death just gets DQ'd. The match itself would have been a good 4 out of 5 if it had a finish, but since we get that non-finish, I'm going to go with a fine 3 out of 5 because I really do like what the guys are bringing to the table until we got the screwy finish, or both of them really. Hopefully the unified NWA World Tag Team Championship and WCW World Tag Team Championship match of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Shane the Future Franchise Douglas defending against Barry Windham and Brian Pillman can get that count out and disqualification nonsense out of my head, because while I know Watts was a fan of Williams and Simmons, that should have really been Ron going over with a clean 1-2-3. Nothing but top quality talent in this match. Windham and Steamboat are both WrestleMania alumni, while Douglas and Pillman are among the youngest and hungriest of this time frame and future ECW standouts for, totally different reasons. Teaming with Steamboat and holding both the NWA and WCW tag team titles gives Shane Douglas that, I wonder if it gives Shane that energy to become that franchise of ECW that I know that he will be, because Steamboat really has legitimacy. Shane and Brian start the match. Ventura says Shane's hero is Rush Limbaugh, and Jim Ross replies that he likes Rush. That'd never fly in this day and age. You're just not allowed to have unwelcomed opinions. That'd be like Taz saying that he's a fan of Tucker Carlson, and I just don't think the internet would allow that without exploding here in the modern age. But in 1992, it was a simpler time. The body complements how Brian isn't just a flyer anymore. Now he can get technical and brawl. Ventura is big time against Douglas, and part of me wonders if it is the political differences or just because Shane is a good guy and Jesse is always a bad guy commentator. Either way, it pops me. Brian and Shane work so well together. Had Brian not gotten into that car accident, I swear he was a main eventer in the making. When Windham is tagged in, he wants the veteran, so Shane tags in Ricky. Unfortunately to Barry, he is not having much luck against the Dragon. Earlier in the year of 2024, not 1992, Bruce Pritchard was quoted as to saying he didn't think that Ricky Steamboat would work in the modern age, but I personally think that the Dragon style is timeless. Ricky was also my mom's favorite wrestler, so maybe that influences my perspective. So many tags, that is what sets this apart from those qualifying matches earlier in the night. With Shane legal, the pace slows down. He and Barry are catching their breath in a headlock. I wonder if this time with Steamboat was influential in Douglas always coming across as a top guy, well, to me at least, in his ECW days. Windham is excellent at making the good guys look strong and smart, but he is also great at hitting devastating moves like a sick jawbreaker, then falling into a tag. This match is full of innovative tags. Shane and Brian trade beautiful drop kicks from both sides of the ring, inside and out, respectively. The closing moments of the match see Shane Douglas hit Brian Pillman with a belly-to-belly suplex. Jesse Ventura says Magnum TA would be proud of that belly-to-belly, which makes me realize, have I ever seen Magnum TA hit his finish? I'm not sure, but this thing was a great 5 out of 5 stars match. We get cheap but effective highlight package to hype up the finals of the King of Cable tournament. Jim Ross is ready, and this is one of the defining rivalries of WCW, at least for me. So I am also ready. Possibly the best big man of all time versus possibly the best good guy ever. This King of Cable trophy looks so dumb to me, but screw the prize. This is Sting versus Vader, the semi-main event, and then followed up the main event back to back. This is also both men's second match of the night. I find it funny that these two guys are both fighting for a trophy, and then right after they're going for a ring, but neither man is going after a championship belt tonight. Watching Vader and Sting makes me want to get back in the ring myself. I'm not as good as I once was, back in like 2007, 2008, or possibly even when I stopped wrestling back in 2012. But man, just seeing Vader and Sting makes me want one more run because they are two of my all-time favorites, both in good guys, bad guys, and, in the case of Vader, big guys. I always wanted to be that Sting style of character. I even considered painting my face at one point, but most bookers saw me as the villain because of my size, and Vader, to me, is that perfect representation of a big man. At this time in 1992, Sting is a man on fire. Two big boots to Vader, followed by a massive superplex, followed by the Scorpion Deathlock. Only the Rocky Mountain Mastodon is so large that he can reach the rope. With both men on the outside, Sting goes for a namesake splash only for Vader to move and the Stinger to get stung by the barricade. When they both return to the ring, Vader hits his own version of a corner splash, leading to Vader hooking Sting's leg strong enough that it causes the man called Sting to slide out of the pin entirely. Vader is so mad he attempts to clothesline Sting while both guys are still on their knees. This match was just a complete spectacular 6 out of 5 stars. It went 16 minutes, 50 seconds. I missed so much, but I thoroughly recommend anybody to go watch it. Sting wins, and Jesse Ventura is in the ring for the trophy ceremony. This feels like a way for both guys to catch the breath before they and the other 6 men, Barry Windham, Great Muta, Dustin Rhodes, Dan Spivey, and Van Hammer, along with Dr. Death, come out and we get that big battle royal main event. Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko also kill some time talking about the prestige of the Battle Bowl ring, which I do not believe in. They air a completely pointless interview with a guy who has one of the original Super Bowl rings. This guy knows so little about wrestling that he calls a match playoffs. I have about a page of notes left about the main event, but the fact is, if you've seen a Battle Royal, you've seen this Battle Royal. The Great Muta won the Battle Bowl, and it was a fine 3 out of 5 stars match that went 14 minutes and 1 second. The match itself was just everyone doing what everyone does in every Battle Royal. It was fine. Everyone was tired and nothing special particularly happened. Even the final move was just a drop kick that we'd seen plenty of times during the night. The 8-man match was too long, and it really, I don't know, it just didn't have the same weight as the King of Cable match, which was a one-on-one. If you'd have given me the option, I would have had Vader and Sting take themselves out, fight to the back, let Muta win the Battle Bowl ring, then have the Vader and Sting fight their way back out to the arena to have the actual match that was the best match of the night in the final last few moments for that tournament. But yeah, overall, just mismatched structure of the show is what I think the biggest takeaway of Starrcade 92 is, since you start out with all of the tag matches, then you have the NWA World Title match, then the WCW World Title match, the World Tag Team Title match, and then the King of Cable before you do the Battle Royal. I think that if you'd have split up, let's say that one of the world title matches is so important you got to open it because you can't wait, something, then you do a couple of tags, then you do the other world title match, couple of tags, you do the King of Cable. I'm just saying you could have structured the show better, but in the end, it was a good 4 out of 5 stars show. So much good wrestling, top to bottom. Even the not great stuff was fine. Like I said, you got that spectacular King of Cable final that I think everybody should go out of their way to watch.